Breaking news, police are treating the Disappearance of Today show co-host Savannah Guthrie's mother as a crime. Investigators say the 84-year-old was last seen near her home on January 31st. Now the Pima County Sheriff says she has mobility issues and some things at the scene indicate she did not leave on her own. Let's bring in ABC's Melissa Adon and ABC News contributor, former FBI agent Brad Garrett for more. Melissa, what's the latest on the investigation?
So, Diane, what we just heard about Nancy Guthrie, she's 84 years old, and the investigators there at Pima County, Arizona, confirming that they do, in fact, have a crime scene. Now, that is critical and new information because what we had heard just yesterday was that investigators were concerned with what they found there in that home, and now they're calling it a crime scene. Please have a listen to the latest that we just heard from investigators.
As I said yesterday, we saw some things at the home that were concerning to us. We believe now, after we processed that crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime scene, that we do in fact have a crime, and we're asking the community's help.
Now, reporters in the room there were questioning officials saying, well, what exactly is that evidence? How do we know that it is, in fact, a crime? Well, investigators followed up saying that they don't want to compromise their investigation so far. But what they do know is what they found yesterday was so concerning that they have now put together some of this evidence that they're going through and looking through because they feel confident that essentially 84-year-old Nancy Guthrie could not have just walked out of that home alone. Now, we're being told that she has mobility issues, but that she's perfectly sound of mind. Now, another really key alerting thing that we learned was that the investigators shared that if Nancy does not get medicated, this could be fatal. Diane.
And Brad, the sheriff talked about using technology to aid in this search. What goes into an investigation like this?
So the big key is if she didn't leave the house voluntarily, which is what the sheriff is certainly suggesting, that means somebody forcibly took her out of the house because of physical, not mental, but physical impairments. They would have had to help her to force her into a car or into some other device that could take her wherever. So you obviously want to use drones, but you also want to pull down any cell phone that was on at the time that you believe she disappeared, who showed up at the house. Because the key here, obviously, Diane, is immediacy. What things can you immediately do? You can do what I just talked about. You also need to immediately interview the staff that works in the house. Who was the last person who saw her? Did she get telephone calls right before supposedly she disappeared? All of those things you need to know. I'm sure they already do know. And going one step outside of that, then what's the motive? Is this driven because it's personal some way? Is it driven because she can get the money or something that's, excuse me, valuable? I don't know. But that also is important because you just don't show up at somebody's house, to an 84-year-old's house, and then force them to leave with you without obviously some motive.
And Brad, they mentioned several times needing community help here, any information. How crucial is that in a case like this?
It's big time crucial. I mean, I don't know the layout of where Miss Guthrie lives, but, you know, is she in close proximity to other people? What is their CCTV? The sheriff referred to this. Did they see a car that they've never seen in her driveway or in front of her residence? Had she told them about somebody she was concerned about? All of those things play into a potential lead as to A, who took her, and B, potentially where she might be at this point.
And Melissa, Savannah Guthrie and her family released a statement saying they're staying focused on finding their mother. Any more on the family and how they're helping in this search?
Absolutely, Diane. You know, through the investigators, we did learn that Savannah's family, including Savannah herself, they are there in Pima County helping out with investigators with any information that they have. And in fact, what we've learned was that it was Savannah's siblings who essentially were alerted that their mom was missing when she didn't show up to church. That's when the family then went over to her home. We're told that Nancy Guthrie lives on her own, but they didn't find her. They started essentially possibly doing their own search, then called 911. So at this point, we do know that all of the siblings are just rallying together, of course, now working with law enforcement and any of the law enforcement agency partners that are going to be helping out with this, because this is really dire. Of course, that 24-hour window so crucial in any of these missing persons case right now, that they hopefully can find her.
Melissa Adon, Brad Garrett, thank you both.